Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we are excited to have someone who's connected with people online for a very long time. She's a tarot card reader. She's got Tarot by Janine, and she's here with us today to tell her more about herself. So how are you doing today, Janine?
I'm doing good. Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for taking the time here for us today. We already got a whole bunch of people in the house excited when I posted your promo for you coming up. Wow, lots of people excited to hear you, and so you've definitely got a worldwide audience like here here at the Missing Link. So why don't you start off with telling us about yourself, about what part of the world you're in, a little bit about you, growing up, and maybe how you got into tarot card reading.
Okay. Well, I haven't talked about that for quite a while, so I'll start with I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I spent a lot of time in the Haida Gwaii. So the Haida Gwaii is like a spirit place for me, and I think I discovered my soul essence there. So that's a big spirit place for me. Also, I was told when I was on Haida Gwaii that I was a past life Haida, so they're indigenous peoples. This lifetime, I'm actually two kinds of indigenous, Cree, Kootenai, and French, German, and what used to be Yugoslavian. So I have a lot of cultural, yeah, I'm like a melting pot culturally. Our family has recently got our indigenous identity, so that was taken away because there was these laws that excommunicated women that left reserves, and a grandmother of mine was one of those women. And anyway, we got that righted because the laws got changed. So our family are actually known as Indigenous people now. So that's kind of exciting. I had a lot of love for anything spiritual. I was brought up really strict, sort of Catholic, but I didn't resonate with that. I was absolutely sure there was something wrong with Catholicism right from the get-go, or maybe just organized religion. I remember sitting in church going, where's the goddess? Like, where's the feminine here? I might not have said it in exactly those words because I would have been young, but I would have said it something, like the feeling was
Flow freely.
Okay. I had a keen eye, even at a young age, for people that I thought might be pedophiles. So I was always really intuitive from a really young age. And sometimes I'd wonder, how did I know that about that person? But I think I spent, after years now of self-discovery, working with astrology, tarot, I now know that I had lifetimes likely being abused by what we're calling the dark cult or the deep state, the Illuminati, the elitists, so that group that I'm pretty sure there's higher ups, off-world higher ups, who knows, really, they're just minions, but people that would consider themselves in what I call the dark cult. And a lot of people that follow me online, they would know what I'm talking about. So for years, I was not asleep to that. What I was kind of sleeping on was politics. So politically, I wasn't very savvy, and I didn't understand politics. In fact, but I was addicted to CNN. Okay, okay, that says everything. So I was a big Trump hater, actually, and only because I was listening to CNN. And when I started, so let me back up. I did tarot readings for a huge clientele since the time I was, by the time I was 31, I would have been full-time reading. I would have been considered I studied tarot and astrology for years, and I would have been considered a professional reader by 31, and I was reading for money, and it was my livelihood. That went on for years, and then around, might have been 3.5, 4 years ago, myself and another fellow started a YouTube channel. Not because we never heard of truthers by then, and we didn't know anything about the whole situation that's now made itself really clear and what is now considered the truther community, we didn't know anything about that. We started looking at Trump, but in a very negative way, which is like a lot of people were really mad at me actually, because I was talking, I didn't know what I was talking about, to be honest. And pretty soon, the card reading showed that. So I spent time really being confused because on air, I'm reading these readings and it's looking like I got it all wrong in my mind. And the readings started red pilling me because the universe channels through cards. And right online, and a lot of people who watched me in the early days, they watched it happen. They saw me red pill and I started moving over. Of course, that made all the Trump haters mad at me who were, I'd accumulated, but I had a really small platform then, so I don't think I did too much damage. You could have counted it, in the hundreds. So then I took some time out because I had to educate myself and readjust. I took some time out and focused on the royals because at this time, Meghan and Harry were really big news, had just got together. So I was looking at that saga. And then I got red pilled that everything about the royals, long story short, was false. Everything we thought we knew, like it soon spiraled into, okay, we got reptilians on our hands. None of that was things I thought before. The cards and people's questions led me to red pill about the elite system. And now I'm starting to unravel that. And I did years of unraveling Meghan and Harry, and turns out they were mostly, and I believe to this day, they're mostly fake. Like their whole story, their whole love story, it's all fake. That was all just put together. And I'm still not sure, was it now the Alliance White Hats that did that, or was it what truther communities call the dark hats? I don't know. Right. Might have started out being sort of something that the royals wanted to spin to take attention away from some of the things that were coming out about Prince Andrew. I don't know. But it soon, I think, got taken over by what we call the Alliance or the White Hats. So I don't know if you ever talk about that or have guests talking about that. But soon it seems like their brand, and we stopped seeing them for sure, because there was 5 or 6 versions of Meghan. And I was unraveling all of that as I was talking about it. Never in a million years did I think I'd be doing that. Then the lockdowns happened and more red pilling. That was like almost an overnight. I knew this is not cool. And the person that was working up behind the scenes, this fellow named Guy, he was asking me questions. He was really watching the Q movement or Q drops. So he started asking me, and I didn't even know anything about Q, or I had never read that. I'm going to just say the best way to go into a tarot reading is make sure your reader doesn't know anything about you, or, go in there with fresh questions. And also change your readers up frequently. If you start getting a reader who knows your story too well, they're going to use their intellect over their intuition. I suggest you go in cold with a reader you've just heard good things about, and you get real information. Guy was bringing me on air questions like, are there secret tribunals going on? Right after the lockdowns happened, you were hearing about that. And I didn't even know what he was talking about. And I was like, yes, there is. And everything Q related, the cards agreed with, which led me to believe that Q is absolutely a drop information source that is valid and legit, and was trying to educate people. And I believe things that we now have discovered have been going on, or what I believe anyway, the cards have read that they've been going on for years and years, have been going on much longer. And Q just came along. I think it was 2017, the first Q drop. I'm not sure for sure when that was, but it just came along to prepare people because it was all going to come out. So anyway, I got really involved, and then I just started doing world readings. I stopped reading my clientele because I knew I had to focus, and I knew we were in a war by then, a spiritual war, and I had to pick a side and fight in the war. And I believe I was literally brought here this lifetime for that purpose, because I've never felt, and I turned 60 in that time that I made that decision. I've never felt more sure about anything. And it was like, this is my whole new career now. I'm a truther.
Right on. So, where did you first, get into cards and like, like actual, learning about the art and, how did you first get involved with that? Because you say you were a little bit involved in the church, and the church seems to have a very, opposite, kind of understanding or, comprehension of what, cards are.
Yeah. So that further solidifies my opinion about deep state creating organized religions. I truly believe they do. That most organized religions have been, I don't think they were taken over. I think they were literally created by deep state or dark cult, cabal, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, and for evil to control people. Because one of the big control things with a lot of organized religion is that using cards or pendulums or intuitive tools, in particular, they like to pick on cards, is evil. Okay, so what it actually does is it takes out the middleman and you can directly communicate with universal love. So if you're using it properly, then it is truly a universal love tool, and you can get answers from spirit world, people's higher selves. That's what I call it. Right? I don't channel entities. I channel universal love, and I make it my intention. And my clients will tell you, over all those years, I was always channeling universal love. That's what I do. That's why universal love gently tuned me up about who Trump was and what was really going on. Like, get your ego out of the way, right? So ego has to go out of the room when you got a good card reader with you. And I originally, to answer your question, I originally studied with Connie Leonard, who was actually a very, very well known, albeit like she didn't like have a big public presence, but she was, because we didn't have social media then like we do now, but she was an incredibly well known intuitive and reader. And oddly enough, it turns out, so she told her students, so I was a student of hers for years, she told her students about her childhood upbringing. She was brought up in an evangelist Christian household with an evangelist preacher, and they moved around a lot and ritually sexually abused all of their children. They had, I think, 12, and filmed and photographed and used their children pornographically and sold their children. So they were what we're fighting right now, which is dark cultists. You better believe it, under the guise of evangelist Christians. So that's who taught me to read. She escaped her family, and she was unfortunately a wounded soul. I believe she's passed on recently. If she hasn't, she'd literally be in her late 90s. Last time I talked to her, she wasn't long for the world, so I'm pretty sure she's left the earth plane. But man, she must have had such a hard lifetime, but what a brilliant teacher, and one of the best readers I've ever experienced. The woman was gifted. She taught me.
That's amazing. And then that was your first kind of introduction into, cards, and you just kind of felt right and just went from there.
Well, actually, someone took me to a card reading. I'm glad you asked that, because, yeah, the ramp up story is, before I ever even thought about tarot cards, a friend took me to a reading, and it was in a bar. And if you're from Calgary yourself or know anything about it, you'll know this. And it depends on your age, though, because like we're talking, yeah, the 80s. Would have been the 80s. So I would have been pretty young, and we went to this bar, and it was, what was it? Oh, the Crow Child Inn. And the Crow Child Inn, back in the day, they would have these big tavern like places, but then they'd have a quiet side, We used to call it the quiet side. And we went to the quiet side where this reader had set up, and she'd been there, and lots of people knew about her. And I wish I could, but I can't remember her name. An elderly lady. And she sat me down and did me a reading. So I would have been mid-20s. And I wanted to be a stewardess really bad then, really bad. I'd been a waitress, by the way, for years. I'd studied art. Already by 26, I was married and divorced, by the way. I married at 20. That was just a bad idea, to a total narcissist. Divorced by 26. Now I'm looking for like my next thing that I'm going to do, because I'd quit art college, to put this guy through law school. Anyway, long story short, I learned a lot of hard lessons about what isn't love the hard way, and how to have better boundaries. But anyway, and I'm thankful for those lessons. So now I'm single at 27, married and divorced, and looking for something to do other than waitressing. Okay. And I'm sitting down in this bar, and this woman's reading my cards, and I'm like, I really wanted to be a waitress or a stewardess. And she said, you will never be a stewardess. So that was one of my questions. Would I be a stewardess? She said, you will never be. She said, the universe will rip up your applications. You won't even get an answer back, which is absolutely what must have happened, because I applied to every airline in all of Canada and never once got a reply. And there was no reason. I was perfect stewardess material. Anyway, so it's because the universe had a different plan. And she said, you have a plan. And she basically told me everything that would happen in my life in one reading, including what's still happening. Because she said I'd end up on television, because don't forget, back then we didn't have internet, and she knew nothing about YouTube. So she said I'd end up with a big following on television. So I was thinking television, you know what I mean, the way we used to know about it. And she said I would become really known as a reader, but I had this big mission, and I would, I'd have a daughter. She didn't mention my son. I did have that daughter at 31. Like, everything she said is still happening today. I'll just put it that way.
That's
When you
amazing.
go to a good reader, you can get a reading like that. It was brilliant. And I think it was like $30 or something is what I paid. Wow, that was the best spent $30 ever. She said I'd become this reader anyway. And I thought she was nuts, by the way. And I do readings for people, and they leave basically shaking their head, and they've left saying, you're crazy, and that none of that's going to happen. That happens so often, I can't even tell you. Some of my best readings have been sounded ludicrous, frankly. And even I was like, I don't know. This is what I'm getting. And those have turned out to be the most accurate. So learning to trust yourself as a reader is one of our biggest obstacles. Thank goodness I was born with a heaping amount, and I don't know how this happened, but I'm very thankful for it, of self-esteem. So I don't think I'm better than anybody else. Trust me. I love humans, and I think I'm equal to everybody, though. Nobody's above or below me. You know what I mean? That's the kind of philosophy. But I've always had that philosophy. So I don't, complexes about feeling inferior, never had that. And I'm very thankful for that. So as a reader, even a young reader, I was very bold. And some people walked out of their readings because I was saying things that sounded crazy to them. But I've had people come back years later and apologize and get all their friends in there because I was right on the money. So you got to be bold to be a good reader, because you're getting things and you can't tippy toe around. Because the worst case scenario is you're wrong, right? But mostly if you really let the cards talk and you really know what you're doing, and you know how to read cards, and you listen to your intuition, you're going to be right.
Angeline from our Facebook is asking if you teach.
I do through the academy. So Beyond Mystic Academy has my level 1, and level 2 will be up by the end of September. So level 1's just focused on major arcana. But before that I taught, so that's an online course. Before that I taught for years in person in basements, in the basement of the New Age bookstore. That was a Calgary, really well-known bookstore. For years and years, I had classes, but then online things started happening, and everybody went online 3 years ago because people couldn't even come in to see you. They'd have to wear a mask, or so all of that pushed all the readers online. So I started creating, besides my YouTube things, I started creating online readings and then online courses. And now it's up on Beyond Mystic. I have the level 1, and level 2 will be all minor arcana and court cards. So yes, I do teach.
So Helen from our Facebook is saying, do you do readings? So could someone actually, hire you to read them in like a personal, one-on-one setting, whether it's through
Yeah.
Skype, or I'm not sure how you do it, but she's just wondering if you do that.
I did do that up till 2019 winter, and then I fully immersed myself in the truther movement, and now I focus only my readings on world event. I enjoy the really big audience, like talking, because I'm a little intense. Like getting a reading with me can be a little intense. Like I can be kind of big in a room, and I can kind of blow people away with like too much information, and so I like to focus in the truther movement. So no, I feel like it takes my energy too much to go one-on-one when we have a world situation. And until we're through this, also I read for 35 years, huge clientele. I was a daily reader. I put 2 kids through school, and I'm putting 1 through university right now, all on my income as a single parent, only from readings. So you can imagine I did a lot of readings. I was an 8-hour-a-day reader, and sometimes I read 6 days a week. I'm a Taurus and an Ox, so we're a little bit workaholics. So no, I don't enjoy reading individuals. It's nothing personal. I loved my humans that I read for. I love them truly, but now I'm loving my big platform. I like it better.
I'm an Ox as well, except a Scorpio Ox. I actually have the same
Ooh,
birthday as Hillary Clinton for some
ooh,
unfortunate reason, but it's supposedly the most powerful of the Scorpios that day.
yeah,
It's the last day of the
yeah.
Scorpio Libra Plus.
You bet it is. And also, I have the same birth date as Belanoff. So what's her name? So one of the biggest dark cult witches. So I feel ya, right? Because Hillary Clinton's also a dark cult witch. I feel you, but it's how you use your energy. How you use your energy. Somerset Belanoff is a May 1st. I'm not sure. I don't think she's a 1961 like I am. And you're obviously a lot younger than Hillary.
Yeah, I'm turning 49 this year.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of things are going to be different astrologically. So yeah. And it's also how you use your energy. Like people have choices. We have free will here to use. We can use it for good or bad.
Yeah, we all have the power to heal or to harm. It's just a matter of where you focus your energy and what you do with this
Yeah.
amazing meat suit that we've all been given.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a reading with someone and say you're getting, say, maybe some negative, outcomes, maybe, like how do you go about, and this is like we're talking on the general readings now, if you're
Yeah.
actually like reading someone, because we know that most people that I've ever seen do cards in a very honorable, honest way. They feel them, they read them. Everything that I've ever seen, I've seen great, just responses and things right on. And there's obviously some people that can use card reading and intuitive skills for nefarious reasons, and they could
Yeah.
wrap people in by making them afraid of things,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
kind of lead them along. So how do
Yeah.
you deal with, say if you're getting some negative, vibes about maybe the person or the person's future, and how would you deal with a client like that?
Well, interestingly enough, with as many clients as I read over the years, and some of them for 20 years, I'd read them and their families. So and they might go to other people in between me, but off and on, I'd see the same people over the years. Um, I saw a lot of negative outcome potentials. But that here's what happens when you got a reader who's truly reading from source. Spirit world energy, and just reading people taught me this. I didn't know this before I started becoming a reader, but the spirit world, when it's truly, when that's who you're channeling, is unconditionally loving. So even if the person I was reading had a really negative ego or was using their energy in a bad way, okay, the spirit world didn't talk belittling to them. So if the readers are coming with fear or smacking you down in a really like basically derogatory way, you don't have a good reader on your hands. Okay, spirit loves you even if you're being difficult, not using your energy properly. But I was known to get really intense. So sometimes I channel. When the spirit world channels really intense, it's because the biggest issue is you're not loving yourself and you're underestimating yourself. Mostly lack of self-love was why people behave badly. So a lot of my work was reminding people to love themselves, reminding them what their goodness is. So even if they were using it difficultly or badly in the world, okay, I would always like it seemed like it would channel in a loving way. But sometimes you'd get a kind of a smackdown, but not because it's saying you're bad or wrong. It would be saying you're not loving yourself enough. You're not giving yourself enough credit over here. You forgot what you really came here for. Those are the kind of ways that it would maybe seem negative to someone. Or you're surrounding yourself with people because of your lack of self-love. You're surrounding yourself with people who are difficult or hard. And always you would, in the reading, get what your lesson is. So the hard parts, it would read like something like, here's what you're learning in this difficult situation. And then usually I do throw another few layouts to understand how can they alleviate it if it can be. And if there's no way to get around it, it's already been created, how can they prepare for it so they can get through it and learn the lesson so they don't ever have to do that again. So it would sound like there's a way through it because there always is. So it never would it be the dreariest, like if somebody's giving you nothing but fear and dreariness, you got the wrong reader.
David from our Facebook is asking if you use a Rider Waite deck, and are you familiar with Tote tarot cards or Thoth tarot cards?
Yeah. So I learned from Connie Leonard on the Thoth deck. And I love that deck, but it's very tricky and can be and has been used because Aleister Crowley had a big part in it. But the woman who painted those was very good. So it has this incredible balance. So I'm a Scorpio moon Taurus, which is a full moon baby. And I have like there's a real balance there if you let it be. Otherwise, it can be really dramatic, right? Because you got full moon. Moon is opposite your sun. And Scorpio moons, if anybody, likely have been witches in past lives, had done good and bad things with their energy, which of course I'm choosing only to do good this lifetime. It helped me understand never to use any kind of spiritual energy for bad. If you do that, you are going to sevenfold call back smackdown. And I'm pretty sure spiritually I must have done that. Because I think to know things deeply and know integrity deeply, you would have had to try everything, good, bad, and ugly. I've done so many lifetimes that I know how the earth plane works, and karma is real. And there's no way I'm going to misuse. I'm here to love people, and I'm doing it as best I can. But the Thoth deck, like I said, is tricky, but it's brilliant. So I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, but if you feel like a really balanced person and you've really done your spiritual work, and I literally learned on it, so I know it really well. But the Rider Waite is a good deck to use for teaching, so I got into using it because of the teaching tool. Also, they're very recognizable, and most decks are based on it, so they're very recognizable. So when you hold them up on YouTube, people can easily recognize them. So I like to use them. Also, they just feel they're good. They're not as deep. And there's a lot of astrology in the Thoth, which is brilliant. the energy is so much deeper. So personal readings, when I do for myself, or a friend comes over and we're doing readings together for each other, I'll use the Thoth. So yes, I love that deck.
Belinda from our Facebook says, "What is a white witch?"
Somebody who's spiritually using energies like definitely a white witch. So like witchcraft got itself a bad name because if you think about it, original what they called witches were just powerful women. Okay, so when the burning times were happening, that was literally the Illuminati getting rid of powerful women and taking property from powerful women. So it was just an excuse, and they falsified. All of these people were doing witchcraft or bad spells on people. Now, there are people that do that, okay? But like I said, they don't last long because they get smacked so bad by the universe. Just not a good idea. Do you know what I mean? Using your energy, spiritual energy, so in manipulating others, that you're basically dark cult if you're doing that. That's what the dark cult, they're bad witches. Good witches are anybody doing spiritual work using those tools in a good way for the good of humanity and healing people with it. And I believe for 35 years I was doing that, one-on-one, helping people love themselves. My biggest work was we got to love ourselves more, people, and help them through their difficult situations and give them ways to look at it and give them back their power to understand they can choose how to feel about things so they can become more empowered if they're in a victimized situation. I personally don't believe in victims. If anybody's crying victimhood, they got issues they got to heal. There aren't any victims unless you choose to be a victim. You can be victimized, but as soon as you decide I'm a victim, and then stops all your growth. You need to look at, what am I learning from this? How can I become more powerful no matter how difficult it is? And I've been through a lot of personal difficulties, but I always became more powerful, and it marinated me into the loving, compassionate person I am. So no victimhood, and I wouldn't let my clients be either.
Why do you think that they, have tried to tell people that, that we're sinners and that, we're not worthy? That, the reason why the world is in such a, horrible state is because it's our fault. We're the sinners. Do you think that's maybe just to justify their shitty behavior
You
and
bet.
they project it onto the people, saying it's the people when it's actually just a small group of parasites that are doing it to the rest of humanity?
This is literally a bunch that feeds off children and or negative energy. You know the movie, what was that kids movie where the Monster Inc. Okay, that was a Signal movie. Monster Inc. fed off children's anguish and fear, and these monsters filled up their canisters. Okay, that was signaling what the dark cult does. The more the world is in anguish, fear, and self-loathing, the better they feel. So those energies, entities feed off, they literally feed off humans' anguish. So that's why vibrationally you have to stay strong. You have to self-love. They hate that. You don't taste good when you self-love. Your energy doesn't taste good. When you're compassionate and open-hearted, that all of that doesn't, they don't like it. They don't like nurturing and loving, and that's why they repress the feminine. So if you think about all the top models we've discovered have through the years been actually men, born as men. So they're promoting this body shape that is impossible for women. And that's what we aspire to. So we're starving ourselves and hurting ourselves to get like that, and taking out ribs to get like that. We don't even look like that. Women don't. It's like we're not allowed to have the figures we have. Okay, so they've been squashing the feminine because naturally the feminine is the nurturer and mothers. So that's why they swap genders. That's one of the reasons. They do it for lots of reasons. But swapping genders at birth with a lot of their children, and a lot of the elite peoples put in elite positions in the world are actually like, take a real close look at Barbara Bush, just for instance. Take a real close look at Catherine and the royals. So Catherine, and I forget what her fella's name is there. William. Okay. She was a guy at birth. and but just at birth, and then they have this thing that they do, and they move them over to females, and because they don't, the natural feminine, they want to repress it. There's other reasons they do it, but that's what I've been finding in the cards. Repressing the feminine is a really big thing they've been doing for a really long time, because they don't want that beauty and loving, and they want anguish, and they don't want anybody, that mother nurturer thing, because they want to be able to SRA their own children, and make adrenochrome out of yours. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that stuff's real.
Do you think that Mother Teresa was a male from Linda Winger here from Calgary? And yeah,
Yep. So that guy was a guy, and he, now in his case, he was literally a guy just dressed up in those robes like a woman. People have outed him. Like he literally still had his parts, and he wasn't transitioned from birth or anything. They literally, that guy was a plant, likely from the CIA or somewhere like that, and they planted him because CIA, of course, is dark cult run and operated, and they planted him there to traffic children. Okay, and they created all of the background, so nothing was real about that person's background. Nothing was real. It was all fake, and people that actually worked closely with that person outed them, and there's been books outing them as being one of the biggest scumbags ever. And the minute I laid eyes on it, this is before I knew anything about adrenochrome or child trafficking or nothing. I knew nothing. I intuitively couldn't even look at Mother Teresa. I had a hate on for that energy. I was like, that's all, something's going on here. And I did, and people thought I was nuts, but I'm like, no, something's really wrong with that person. And every pope, when I look at the pope, like the Vatican is one of the biggest child trafficking rings ever there was.
yeah, I had the same feeling with Mother Teresa or Father Teresa or whatever you wanna call it. There's recently a photograph of Ronald Reagan in a bathing suit having no package downstairs, and I'm not sure if that's a real picture. But do you think that Ronald Reagan potentially was a female as well? That this the picture is insinuating.
Could be a nod to that or that potential, but let's have a look. Now, I've never asked that with cards. I've never looked into Ronald Reagan. But if you look at Nancy Reagan, I mean, you could, like the shape of jaw, although there's women that have that shape of jaw, there's several things that there has to be at least 3 or 4 markers. Just having a square jaw doesn't make you a man at birth. Just having really big hands, I have really big hands, doesn't make you a man at birth. Just having really big feet and big hands. But if you have really long, like if your arm goes down past a certain length, and you have big hands, and you have big feet, and you have a square jaw, you're likely. And there's also something to do with where your navel is, where your belly button is. That's a real telltale. There's a way that women's legs sit that's totally different than how men's, and also how you walk down the stairs. So there are markers that tell, but just one marker is not doing it. But you have to have 2 or 3 or 4 of them to really convince me that you're, actually. And there are men, with, micro packages or whatever. So, you could, or somebody could have manipulated the photograph, right? But let's have a look.
That could have been it. Just the way it looked like there was nothing there. It looked like if a female had a thing on. So I'm not sure if it was manipulated, but it definitely didn't look like there was any male package there.
Looks like he's a guy. So possibly just not, blessed.
They could have been manipulated as well, and who knows if it was tucked underneath, and who knows what exactly the
Or
picture
maybe
was.
cross-dressing, and so he was using, there's some underwear they buy to be able to pull off the cross-dressing. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, he had a feminine face, but I was trying to look at the rest of the body, and the rest of the body looked man to me, right? So
Mhm.
I was trying to study this whenever, things like that come across before, you want to like
Lower
share
belly,
anything.
lower belly button, lower belly, man's a little higher. And the way there's that cut that men have on the navel that women don't have, we kind of go through like that, and they go like that. There's these two lines, and then the belly button's higher. That's a real telltale. So if you have another look at that, like that, there's a shape that's very hard to fake. When I've seen women to men cross and men to women, it's really hard to fake the navel part. Also, the shoulders. So on the women, they're more slanted. On the guys, they go straight across, and the shoulders are higher or sort of wider than the hips. But for women, they can be smaller than the hips. So that's another real big telltale. And also how long the arms are. If the arms are shorter than most guys, and you have that high belly button, okay, there it's going to be interesting. I'd have to look at the picture, but it looks like he was born a male to me, what I'm getting. So that's a guy. I said, what was he born? And that looks like a guy. So I'm just reading the cards.
Juan wants to know what you know about the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases.
Mm-hmm. Well, just what I've been hearing in the truther community, and I've read a lot about it. So a lot of what Gene Decode talks about, it seems to be absolutely true. There's huge areas, even in Alberta, around Banff and Cold Lake, some of the worst, even in our local area here, but all over the world. New Zealand's one of the worst. South Africa is really bad. Places, there's all these hot spots. The Ukraine, not the Ukraine. Yes, the Ukraine was a really big trafficking hub. Okay, but they were even cross-country trafficking because the U.S. had so the dark cult or deep state part of the U.S. basically was in control of Ukraine. Okay, so even though it's been presented a certain way in the media, none of that's really true. So you get in a lot of trouble saying that, but that's just happens to be the case. It was a huge laundering and trafficking hub for the deep state. So there's lots of tunneling there, but also across, like they were moving right out in broad daylight, trafficking people around. But yeah, there's certain spots that are real hotbeds for it. Australia is another one, various places. And that's why they had some of the hardest lockdowns, because to cover up for activities where the white hats were going in the alliance and cleaning them out, they really had, and that also happening in New Zealand right now, even they're still finishing up. This is what we're hearing. And I get a yes in the cards about those things.
Now, do you think that they've been all cleared out? Is there still more work to be done? Some people believe that, maybe it's, a psyop, that's not even really happening. But, what's your thoughts on if they're still working on trying to, fix or retake over some of these really dark underground bases?
We're really close to where they're in way cleaner territory. So that swamp's getting cleared out, and with a lot of focus there. There's been a lot of focus. That's a focus and intent card. And it looks like we're getting really close to where we can look out and go, yeah, this is mostly done. But of course, some of these are so deep and have all kinds of creatures living down there. Apparently, it's been very difficult. It's taken years, and it's been going on the cleanup for years and years, unbeknownst to most people.
Juan is also asking, how valid do you think the X-22 reports are? Because, is always setting the trap, is always just about to happen. And the same thing has been going on for the last 2 years with not a lot that we can see of visible results. So some people are questioning, what the validity of, the X-22 report is.
Yeah, I always agree with most of what they say, but I do find every once in a while, and maybe they're told to do this, that they might put out some fear porn to help wake up the normies kind of thing. So there's been this ongoing wake up that's just trying to get more people awake before everything comes out to the public, because it'll be so shocking. If you think about it, this stuff seems ludicrous. If you'd never heard any of this, you're going to think we're nuts. Okay. And it's nuts. And if you, for the first time, we're seeing pictures of what children look like when they've been abused for adrenochrome and everything, that whole panda eye thing, horrific, horrifying things that unfortunately you can't unsee those kind of photographs. And before any of that gets shown, they need to prepare people to some degree. Okay, and before real photographic evidence from DUMBs underground, but I think in the last year it's been way more revealed. We're seeing a lot more real evidence, and you got to know where to look. You got to know which Telegram channels to be watching. I watch the White Hats on Telegram. I keep an eye on Ghost Isra. Like there's a few that really seem to put it out there, but sometimes they put out fear porn too. So if it's totally like humanity's not going to make it through this and we're all doomed, and if you're hearing that, I never get that in the cards. I believe we will come out of this. We have had some gut punches. We're going to have some more gut punches, but we're going to come out of this way better. We're learning a huge lesson, both individually as humans, individual humans, but also as a race, as a human race. And I feel like this is something that was karmically meant for us, and we all agreed to be here doing this and witness it. It's incredible, fascinating, because it's been apparently thousands and thousands, if you're listening to kind of off-world information that a lot of people are spreading around. It sounds like it's been thousands of years this dark cults had us in their grip. So and everything about your history, this part for sure I know is, in my heart I know is true. Everything about history is fake. Everything was faked. They faked everything about what you think the world looks like, the shape of it, everything. And I'm not a flat earther, by the way. I don't believe it's flat or round. I believe it's more of a energy force. And it moves. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, there's everything you've been told and supposed science is all fake. NASA's fake. The movie industry's a bunch of pedophiles and creeps, and they've been signaling what they've been doing, and we've been agreeing to it by watching all of those movies and laughing at all those comics. But really, they've been telling the truth. So they have to tell us what they're doing, and they assume you being compliant with those movies and those nods by the comedians and whatever is like it's a cheap way to get compliance.
Yeah, and I've been researching this stuff for, 30 plus years. So I've been at this for a very long time. And apparently it's a 6,000-year-old death cult. But again, who knows with history, because in their Freemason indoctrination camps they call schools, they actually teach us that the winners burn all the books and rewrite history. So how many times has there been another empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Genghis Khan, all these different things where they burned all the books, rewritten history in their favor. So, to know what is real history, I think maybe it's in the Vatican, or maybe will ever be a true depiction of what real history is, because it's been inverted, perverted, and altered so much through the last thousands of years.
I think we're going to have to channel it, and a lot of really good psychics and intuitives that have proven that they're good at what they do, they're going to have to get together, and I hope I'm included in that, but we're going to have to channel it and figure it out.
What about Justin Trudeau?
But the deep state didn't want you to know that and didn't want that to get out, so they covered it up and replaced them. And this is what happened. Okay, the guy that's supposedly the Russian leader, what's that guy's name?
Putin.
He was replaced about 11 or 12 years ago as well, and with a good guy, not a bad guy. And even his wife at that time. So look up, when did Putin's wife divorce him? That was about the time they waltzed in. So all of a sudden he disappeared for 10 days. Nobody knew where he was. And then this other guy showed up who didn't have the same ears or anything. You can look at it and look carefully. It's not the same guy. They waltzed that guy in, and she wouldn't tolerate it. She didn't stay married to him. Right. So they probably tried to pay her out to stay married to some guy who wasn't really him. They did that with, lots of people actually. But anyway, so they replaced people and then just keep what I call because all the money's tied up in Bill Gates Foundation, right? So they waltz in these fakes. Where was I going with that?
Soros, you were going to ask about Soros.
Oh yeah, thank you. So I think Soros has been replaced by his sons, and they've been doing his dirty work, and they just literally use his brand. So they just like they use Meghan and Harry brand. That those two haven't really been Meghan and Harry. If you look closely at the pictures, they've been about 5 different Meghans and Harrys. It's almost laughable. Like you'd have to be truly not very bright to actually think those are the real originals. Like you can't be very bright if you think that. All you got to do is look carefully. Okay, let's have a look. But they've been getting away with this kind of trickery, and the white hats are trying to show us. They're making it so obvious that even real sleepers are starting to go, wait a second. Like the Johnny Depp trial. Okay, that was all for show, to show you how ludicrous and manipulated we are. So those two, well, I think that was really Johnny Depp, because I think he's come over to the good side. And that woman was not the original woman, okay? And they were just showing you how ludicrous Hollywood is. That they were just showing you what really it's all made up. Their marriage was all made up. They probably hardly spent any time together. You know what I mean? Like they marry them, they have this fake big marriages and whatever. Like George Clooney marriage. I mean, clearly that woman is a guy. George Clooney's wife is a guy, and clearly didn't have those twins or whatever. They're all just created by the dark cult, to keep the brand going and make a lot of money and stuff. And they were just trying to show you that with these two. They probably hardly spent any time together. It's all made up, you guys, right? So most of the world's all made up.
Well,
okay, so
I think they've inverted and perverted everything to keep everybody confused. Yeah. And if everybody doesn't know what's going on, that's why they've, they rule by us, being so divided and so confused about everything, because it's hard to really figure out.
Yeah, they do. They want to keep you completely in the dark about stuff. So they just confuse the shit out of you, basically. Okay, it looks like he left. So left. Disappointed that they're losing the war. Of course, he's a big player. So he probably had a place to hide or left, and his family's running things. So that's a family card. So his family's running things. And I'd even say since last October, it just popped in my head. So his family's running things. So he's secreted out of here. And his sons or somebody in his family who's also obviously,
what about Nasara Jasara? Is that going to become a reality? And is there any kind of a time frame where people may be able to feel that will actually be real?
So I've looked at Jasara and Nasara, and what I get is some version of it. I just want to say that because I know there's very specific rules, sort of guidelines that Jasara and Nasara would have to follow to be called that. But I get a version of that, some compensation for the human race, using all of the funds. For instance, they've cleared out the Vatican apparently, and there was miles of gold under there and miles of tunnels and all kinds of secrets and things worth incredible amounts of money and knowledge. So what are they going to do with all that wealth? What are they going to do with all the wealth of Tom Hanks? Because he was taken out by the white hats. And what are they going to do with his wealth? What are they going to do with these people's wealth, especially if they were involved in child trafficking, adrenochrome, and doing ritual, murdering people with ritual, all that kind. Anybody doing that, their wealth's confiscated and it's going to be distributed. But I believe it won't be the same exact rules, maybe, and just what I get. So I could be wrong about this, but let's say some version of that will come. And I feel like everything has to go down first before they can roll that out. So we could have some months to wait. But I believe in the coming years, we're going to have a whole different world and have to rebuild. It's not just poof, magically everything's just perfect, turns around. No, think about it. Governments are all collapsing. Finally they get outed as the frauds they are. Everything collapses, all these systems. Well, we still need some version of systems to run countries. We're going to need to rethink how we process food. That's why all those food processing plants got burned down. Most of them, you're happy they did, if you really think about it. Think about how they're processing beef and chicken and food that you eat. It's demonic, literally, and you're eating that energy. That's how they keep us dumbed down. They're poisoning us. They're with negative energy, but also just the way things are produced in big scale. Okay, so that's a nod that we have to change that anyway. There's a whole bunch of things going on that you think are bad will turn out to be to your advantage. Everyone has to start thinking more locally, governing more locally, and coming together. It's going to be a lot of work. We're going to have to rethink we're going to have to remake things, and not in the style of the debauchery that's been going on.
Any thoughts on Isaac Cappy, or have you got anything? Like here, we had a few comments before, but Isaac Cappy, former actor exposing pedophiles, supposed suicide, not real, believable though. Do you think he's passed on? Has he been suicided? Has he left? Has he been put into hiding?
I
While
believe he got put into hiding. Yeah, he was a white hat. A whole bunch of them are agreed to and or came forward to about 2017 is what people are saying, or maybe even sooner. They started coming over to, but even sooner, like they say Michael Jackson's was a fake death, Princess Diana's was a fake death, because they found out they were going to sacrifice her, kill her, murder her. So they swapped her out. That's why that whole swap cars at the last minute, a whole bunch of stuff happened, right? So they actually tricked the bad guys. And that's why the Queen was so mad and wouldn't come to her funeral. Normally she would have kept the fake up, but she was so enlivened because they fooled her. And so they did kill her, but they didn't. And so the dark cult got fooled that time and for everybody to see. But of course, most people weren't seeing. Right?
Yeah. Here was one. Have you heard of the GPMS world, Rick Jewer's People's Monetary System? Does it have any legitimacy? Do you think, or have you heard about the GPMS?
I never heard of it.
Okay, yeah, we've had him here a few times on the Missing Link, and so he has this system that he wants to replace this monetary system that we have, where they just give to everybody, and it's through this program that they've been working on. So some people believe wholeheartedly in it, and then other people's, like Linda, doesn't have the best feelings towards it.
Well, it looks like they got good intentions, but there's some kind of holdups to the outcome. So in principle, they're not doing anything bad or trying to fool anybody. They got really good intentions. It could take a really long time to get it out there or get it to function. Okay, and there's going to be some possibly legal things they're going to bump into, and or issues around legalities. I don't know what I'm talking about, that could hold things up. It looks like, yeah, we're getting the legal cards that could hold things up. But I feel like their intention is absolutely honorable. And if a lot of people can push through the hurdles that they're going to bump into, could have wings. It's not a given though.
Yeah, awesome. I've had him a few times, and I believe his intention. He believes he's the reincarnation of Jesus, so he's doing this in like an honorable way. And like from what I can tell, he seems like his heart is in the right place. And I think that he has a lot of those stumbling blocks, like you just said, these legal things. And I was telling him they should actually do a coin, for this. And so people could actually, there could be monetary value and people could pull their money out and into this, but he wants nothing to do with the coins. And I said, this would give it something tangible that people could actually, instead of just a thought and idea and a sign up. So,
I think that's a really evolved, this person's a really evolved and even starseed. So they're thinking in the future for mankind, but we're not quite there yet. So we still have a lot of steps to do first. But if we suddenly, if there really was a solar flash like Ishmael Peraz talks about, and we suddenly all had a step up in evolution and realized how much we do have at our fingertips and that we're magical beings, which is why they like to try to enslave us, because they don't want us to know how magical we are, then yeah, that all of that could be possible. And I truly really respect a lot of information that a lot of different truthers are bringing, including Ishmael. So it's like, I guess all of that's pending, right?
John McAfee. He just, it looks, yeah, he's alive, because it looked like he was in some kind of a fortress that was all in, no signal in, no signal. I didn't know if that was before or afterwards, but they're making it look like he's alive.
He's alive. Yeah, he's for absolutely alive. I right away when that whole fake thing happened, I read on that. It was like, no way. This guy's gonna educate people on how they do the faking people's death and stuff. He's the first one to be really obvious.
I'm not sure who Shelley Musgrave is, but do you know who that is? Yeah, there's a question mark. Okay. Maybe it was just a response, that maybe it was a question to somebody else's question. What about JFK?
Yeah, I think he's I believe he didn't die when they said he did. I think that was also faked. And I think he's going to step out, but I don't know when. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot has to already come into people's like knowing before it would be safe for these guys to step out. But I do think he's alive, and I think he falsified his death too. He knew what was coming, so they set it up again.
Well, yeah, apparently, because he was up against Hillary Clinton for the senator race, and apparently he was ahead, so they planned to kill him.
Yeah.
And so whether they killed him or he faked it before they could actually do it.
Too many clues that he left in that George magazine that he's still alive. I mean, he left a lot of clues that he could still be alive.
Do you know about the Saint Germain Trust, and is there any validity to that hidden money that's supposed to be released to free humanity from this slavery and bondage?
Well, that sort of sounds like what I was talking about, the sort of version of Jassara Nasara, but I don't literally know about that. Can you tell me anything more about it?
So Saint Germain was apparently someone who was, a saint against these people, and he had all this money in a hidden trust, and it's actually worth trillions of dollars. And supposedly his money, that is in this hidden trust is going to help free humanity. It's not part of the Nasar Jassar. It's not all the hidden gold. This is actually, like from, hundreds of years ago, that there's actually money that he had invested, or somehow that's been just increasing in value all of these times.
Mm-hmm. So this card tells me there's truth in that, because she's integral and has truth and integrity. So does this card. Anything with wands has truth and integrity, especially when you get them together in along the lines. And this is hidden. So a lot of it's hidden or hard to get or cloaked, if that makes any sense. So it's not just literally sitting there where you could just dip into it yet. So there's, I feel like there might be either a time frame that's released, or there's still something to work through to get to it, because there's hidden cloaked energy around it. There could even be magic keeping it hidden, or cloaking of some kind, off-world cloaking or something. I don't know, right? But it feels like, yeah, so that was the strategy in the past, because that person looks like they knew about what was coming for humanity. Maybe they were even a time traveler somehow, or met up with a time traveler who told them about what was coming. And yeah, that It's going to take time, but there's going to be a way to utilize it. You bet.
Julian Assange, what's your thoughts on Assange and why Trump didn't help him and actually, pretended he didn't even know about WikiLeaks later on? He was acting like all kind of dumb when it was one of his big, pushes to help him get elected was the WikiLeaks, right? He mentioned it, lock her up, and she didn't get locked up, and it seems like, Assange is still not in the best place right now. So maybe you could, enlighten us to what your thoughts are, the cards, what they say to, Julian Assange, and is he okay?
Okay, I think what you know about him is lies. I think he's traveled, possibly even off world or other dimensionally, or somehow someplace that's so well hidden you couldn't find him. So whoever's sitting around in wherever they say he's sitting around, I don't think that's really him, or they're using CGI, or they're telling you lies. He's actually a white hat, so he's been working with the white hats, and for a really long time, by the way. So he's a big integral part and had a really big part to play. And it's just political posturing what Trump was doing, because, maybe at the time it wouldn't be smart to be aligned with him for whatever. Like a lot of what he says and does has to do with to get him somewhere else in the public eye, because it's all political posturing, because they're trying to fight this demonic energy that's infiltrated all the government. So he had to really rub shoulders with and be part of those creepy dark cultures. You know what I mean? Look at the family he grew up in. Trump wasn't even born to that. Like, that's not his family. All of that's fake. So he was placed in that family. He has different parentage, and he's a hybrid of some kind. He's not actually fully human. Like a lot of us, by the way, are hybrids, but he's a hybrid, and he was designed for what he's doing right now. And so he rubbed shoulders with and was brought up in a very wealthy dark cult family like that. There's dark cult roots to that family if you look into it, and some of his wives had dark cult roots, but doesn't mean they, drank baby's blood and did rituals with babies and stuff. You know what I mean? So they couldn't turn him, and who had plans for him to place him to do the work he's doing right now, Trump. They watched him to make sure he couldn't be turned into the demonics, but he had to rub shoulders with and go to some of these people's houses and rub shoulders with them. There's pictures of him with all of those people. He couldn't have get as far as he did and get actually into politics the way he did, and whatever, all the stuff he had to do, if he hadn't been. So there's reasons why they do what they do.
So you, in your heart of hearts, and even the cards, believe that Trump is a good guy, and that he's, obviously he's got his faults. Nobody's perfect, and things
Yeah.
have been said and
But
done
they also
throughout.
played it. Like they took anything. There's been a smear campaign on him 24/7. So almost everything they ever got on him turned out not to be true, actually, anything real they were trying to get on him. And they just played on everything to make everybody hate him. They knew exactly how. Like that's a dark cult trick, right? It's like how they actually made you love a man parading around as Mother Teresa. So just fake news, bombarded with fake. When people were yelling out who had worked with that creep, how mean the person was, and how they suspected he wasn't really a woman, and all of these things. Like, he had no compassion or love whatsoever, and put up there, we bought that he was one of the most saintly, loving women, called him Mother Teresa. Give me a break. That shows you just how easily fooled, if you're not listening to your intuition, people can be.
What about his uncle? And he supposedly got all the Tesla technology, and a lot of this stuff was supposed to be released. And, is that still in the works?
Yeah. So it's still held secret, but it'll all come out to humanity. I feel like that person was a time traveler. So his uncle was a time traveler and did understand time travel, and passed down some of the things, because he's the one that collected Tesla's belongings, and I believe he passed down a lot of the knowledge in
Here's
the
a question.
10.
Yeah, here's a question for Mark from our Facebook, and I'm going to add to it a little bit. So, could we have a status on the cabal globally? Do they still have power, or are they done, or is the fight still going on? And my addition is that, mainstream media, if the white hats are in charge, why haven't they taken over the mainstream media? And why is there so much still, smearing of, like, say, Donald Trump or these things that are going on? It just seems like they haven't taken over the mainstream media yet, and hence why this citizen journalism is so important, because
Yeah.
of all the lies still being spewed out by them.
So they're largely, so this is a 9 of Wands, so they're really beaten down, the cabal, the first question there, and largely licking their wounds, feeling sorry for themselves. But there's still some holdouts, people that didn't get the memo, minions that have been MK altered, willing to still do their little missions, even though their higher ups have been taken out, but they're still going to act out their mission. So we got super soldiers that could be enacted. We got, like, there was definitely booby traps all over the world with sketchy things. Maybe some of those deep tunnels still have draconian energy, working their little whatever they got down there. Do you know what I mean? So we don't, like, you can't, this could take a lot of years to fully clear out, right, energetically, unless, like they say, that solar flash happens and a lot of people, energetically, we would make it impossible for them to want to stay. So the more our vibration rises, they don't want to be here if everybody's visualizing a beautiful world, loving each other, loving themselves. You know what I mean? If we actually evolve up to that, what they say is 5D or whatever, if we actually evolve like that and we get some help maybe with the solar flash, if that actually happened, that would really help this eliminate, because they can't live in that atmosphere. So the more people rise their energy, the less likely these guys want to stick around anyway, because they don't like love and peace and compassion. They hate that. That doesn't taste good. They're not interested. Do you know what I mean? So we can starve them by raising our vibration. So there's that to think about. Now, the second part of your question was mainstream media. So I've done tons of looks at that. So I'll just sort of put it in a short version, because there's so many angles there. But what I've been getting, and I'll try to explain it, is, and this is consistent. So trust me, people ask that question daily, right? So I look at it a lot. So over the last year, just what I've been getting is that what we call the Alliance and the White Hats have infiltrated all areas. Okay, they don't fully have control. Like I said, there's still these holdouts and minions working and throwing wrenches in and booby traps, and there's still some plays to make on the chessboard. Okay, but the thing is, they do have control, but they have to, how we've been completely brainwashed over lifetimes, generationally brainwashed to believe all the things. We believe people walked on the moon. We believe the story that, we came from apes. A lot of people believe that. That's just hilarious. We believe, you know what I mean? So there's all of these things that I was taught in school, all of it, throw it all out. And by the way, I hated school, and I just went like this to most of it. So I was ahead of the game. They couldn't program me. And that's why a lot of these truthers, we were bad in school. We were the bad students. When you're a good student, you're programmable. Okay. I wasn't programmable. I always checked in with my intuition and went, that sounds like BS. And I loved my parents. I'm going to say that before I say what I'm going to say next. But I literally remember as a young girl, even at 9, going, okay, these guys are nice. My mom and dad were really good people, nice people, but they're not that bright. They didn't get anything. They will still to this day, although my mom's passed on, so she knows better now, tell you that the priests in our neighborhood must have been set up, or no, they'll defend Christianity, the popes, they bought hook, line, and sinker into everything. The medical system, even though it screwed them both over in various different ways, always they'll defer to the systems that are all demonic. Right. It's unfortunate. So I could see even as a young girl, these people weren't getting it. Okay. So I was like the weird one in the family. You better believe it. Okay. And nobody else thinks like that in our whole family. We got a big family. But anyway, what was it? What was that? What was the question again?
I think we
Where
were.
did we start?
Pardon?
I can't remember. I go off
I think
on
it was the
10.
yeah. I think it was the mainstream media that we
Oh, yeah.
were just trying
Oh,
to.
right. So we've all been programmed generationally. Okay, so to undo the damage, they've had to show in plain sight, but they have to do it sneakily because otherwise people will go into shutdown, zombie. Okay, if you all of a sudden rip the band-aid off for these people, even though it sounds fun, let's just show them 10 days of everything that's true. Like eventually they might do that. That would be the EBS, which would be brilliant.
In order for us to, regain
Yeah.
our sovereignty, once again. What's your thoughts on the food shortages? Does maybe see what the cards maybe tell us of the pending food crisis that are supposedly being hit in so many different ways. I know you mentioned about the processing plants, and I actually thought about that when that actually was happening. I'm like, yeah, there's less processing of shit food is probably not the worst thing.
Yeah. So this is sending signals to wake people up. Look at that card. That trumpeter, interesting. That's called a trumpeter. So trumpeter, and that's a trump card. In the tarot, there's 22 trump cards. They're called trump cards. Isn't that interesting? I think this was all planned a long time ago. Anyway, so they're trying to wake you up with that. So that's a wake up call to what the deep state had planned. Okay, but so now where are you hearing that? Mostly mainstream media. Take it down quite a few notches. Yes, there will be issues. Yes, there will be, and a lot of it has to do with the lockdowns and a lot of things. They're clearing out a lot of, like for instance, those big container ships are largely used for human trafficking, they've discovered. So all of that signaling with that one that got stuck in the canal, okay, they actually swooped in and found humans in the cargo containers. And it was a total sting operation. Okay, so a whole bunch of that has to get cleaned up. So yes, we will have shortages, but take it down to half. So that's a 50, it's way less than they're saying. Okay, but it doesn't mean it won't hurt. And yes, it will. And some areas it'll be worse than others. And a lot of places you're hearing about it. Ask people, because I got people from all over the world writing me, and I continually say, if you're in, Yugoslavia, or although Yugoslavia no longer exists, but that area that used to be known as Yugoslavia, because they're talking about, okay, big shortages there, and they're showing you empty shelves, and they're showing you, I say, send me pictures of your shelves and tell me what's really going on. Most of it is a whole bunch of BS. Not all of it. Some people are experiencing it, but take it down. And I think another reason why sometimes I'm not maybe the favorite of the white hats, because I will, if they are planning this and they're trying to put out a certain look to wake people up, I'm the one going, no, that's actually not really happening. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes I think that's another reason why I got shut off all channels, and even told, they even said if somebody mentions Tarot by Janine on YouTube, they could be shut down too. So that's pretty drastic, but I believe they've infiltrated YouTube, white hats. So I know I sound like a lunatic right now, but I'm willing to stand by, and I'm just waiting it out here, and
Well,
I'll just see what happens.
there's no way you sound like a lunatic in an insane world. Everything is pretty insane around us. So anyone just
Yeah.
forging their path and believing what they believe is not insane. You're just, this is what you believe and who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And that's beautiful. So what do you think about Freeland? Is she a real Nazi? Is she a real clone? Because her great grandfather owned a Nazi newspaper. So she comes from a bloodline of Nazis, but is, and we heard that she was Trudeau's handler, but if he's a clone, then what part does she play? Because she's totally, World Economic Forum.
So she's been capitulated and made deals in the background and come over to the friendly side, but been on the dark side. So she's made, they're now using her and even letting the cat out of the bag about her background and connections. All of that would have never been let out of the bag if really that government was in charge. Think about that, right? They'd never let these things, the things that are coming out of the cats that are getting let out of the bags, they've they've been covering that stuff up for years. Look at the German, is she a prime minister, that woman that I think she's gone now, but
Merkel?
Merkel, she was totally related to Hitler himself.
Yeah, apparently she was Hitler's daughter or granddaughter, and then there was another one. I think Obama or something. I just heard has kind of blood ties to Hitler. It was somebody else that recently I just heard about.
They create a lot of these people, right, and then they place them. Okay, so Obama's whole family was CIA. So his literal, who they said was his mom, was a CIA agent. And apparently they just created him. And he was SRA, so satanic ritually abused his whole life. A very sad story, passed around and abused, and he didn't stand a chance. He never had a normal childhood. Look up satanic ritual abuse and find out what he had to put up with his whole life. And so he's MK altered. He doesn't even know who he is. He has no idea. He just has all these altars. Okay. And anyway, he's rounded up, if not off the earth plane by now. So anybody you think is him, it's not him. But anyway, yeah. So like a lot of these people were put in there, created, and then just puppeted.
If Ukraine is such a, deep underbelly of the deep state, a lot of child trafficking going through there, a lot of, horrific things that have done to the Ukrainian people, to the Russian people in Ukraine. Why is there such a push to give them money? I know here we just had someone say Trudeau and Freeland signed a free trade agreement with Ukraine in 2016. Like, it seems like they're giving them lots of money, support, weapons, and why do you think that?
It's the playground for the deep state. So it's where they would all go party, where the kids would get shipped or shipped in and out of, huge satanic rituals, parties, the games they play where they let loose kids on parcels of land and the elites go chasing after them and hunt them, like stuff like that. Like it was a place where they had the run of. So there's so much stuff going on there. So of course they want to fund them.
We just have Elizabeth. They're attacking this live here on Facebook. She's been bumped a whole bunch of times now, and may have to do with what Janine just said about even people mentioning her name on YouTube has been bumped. We've been really fortunate that Facebook hasn't messed with us too much. I've had a Facebook account deleted. I have a 3 YouTube account deleted, but they've seemed to let all of the missing links play, and we talk about everything and anything and all kinds of different things. So we've been really fortunate with Facebook, but I think I've built up a lot of, credibility or something with them that, for some reason they just seem to not want to, take us down. So what do you think people need to do to prepare themselves for the next, next few months to come?
Well, let's ask the universe just to get a fresh look, because I know intellectually what I might say, but let's look at this viewing audience might need to hear something different. So that's what we're going to channel.
A question Juan had is if you have watched The Greatest Story Never Told of Adolf Hitler. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh, I haven't, but I've heard about it. And I am absolutely sure almost everything we've been told about World War II is complete lies. So I'm not quite ready to I'll delve into that maybe on a deep dive. So I'm expecting that none of it's true, or at least not the way it was presented. And first idea that comes to mind is Hitler must have been MK altered. And they also kept him hyped up on drugs. Think about that doctor was probably his handler who kept him on that drug cocktail that was absurd, right? He couldn't have been thinking straight. So could he been puppeted by some other group? Absolutely, right? But so far, that's just my intellect talking. I never did cards on it because I haven't been ready to. I'm not quite ready. And also the audience that I was working with before I got shut down, they weren't quite ready. Like I'd touch base on, but a lot of people really get upset if you're going to try to say Hitler wasn't who they said he was, right? If you try to go there or talk about the, also YouTube would have shut me down if you even say World War II sometimes. So I did stay away from that. So I'm not willing to talk about that just yet until I deep dive on it with the cards in a big show. So yeah, I'll wait on that. But I get that, like, think about it. Everything about every war was a lie, and all wars are funded on all sides, usually by the deep state and or what you call, the money system. What we now consider the money system funds all the parties, the Rothschilds that fund all the parties. So you better believe wars are just made up to mess with us, right? They're not in anything like they've been presented. So all of that's definitely going to be a lie. Okay, so what do we got here? So we're looking at what to do going forward. So do as much as you can to be independent, including food sources. So buy independent. So I like to go to farmers markets. Support independent as much as possible and try to get your finances as independent from big world banks as possible. And I'm not a money expert, so I'm not trying to give you money advice. I'm just saying, according to the cards, get as independent as possible. You might want to invest in some metals, and I don't make any money off saying that, so nobody can say. I'm just literally saying, like, the ways to be independent are physically have physical either cash and not leave it in the banks en masse, and or metals at home, or things that are valuable, art and or valuable things, properties, things like that. Hang on to them right now, maybe, but stay as independent financially and out of systems, because systems are going down. Think about it. All systems are going down. So don't be reliant on systems if you can possibly get yourself off systems. And that includes, unfortunately, people that are on systems like welfare systems. And I believe that'll be righted and you'll do a lot better, even if you have a hard time physically manifesting abundance. That's all going to change for humans. But in the interim, things will get a little rough. If you're hooked onto a government system of any kind. Okay, so get yourself off systems, because they're all demonic at this point and they're going down. Okay, so here, and that includes stock market. Like, stock market has to go down before it can be righted, right? And then it could be turned into a tool. So not just the rich get richer with it, right? So, and start thinking about and opening up to the idea of meeting off-world or other dimensional beings. They live amongst you already, and they're about to reveal themselves. So prepare mentally maybe for that and start being open about that. Okay, some of them are really good, some of them are probably bad, but they're going to reveal themselves. Yeah, and also there's so much information. Try just touching base with what your soul says about things, and have a daily practice of connecting. And I do not meditate, so I'm not talking about, if you meditate, that's great. But I'm a feminine essence. Energy sometimes doesn't do well meditating. My form of what I call connecting is playing music I love, dancing, physically, like having a salt bath. That's a connecting to the trees outside, nature, being in nature in quiet time, and inward soul connecting. That's what I'm talking about. But if your way of doing that is meditating, that's great. Or you have a practice that works for you, great. I smudge. I'm part native, so I really relate to that, and love nature. And I have favorite trees that talk to me, and so whatever that is to you, connect. We need to be connected, because we're going into bumpy waters. Well, we've been in really bumpy waters, but it's about to get really bumpy before the calm comes, and then now the cleanup will happen. So I'm not promising it's going to be all rosy or all of a sudden switch on and we'll have this beautiful world, but we are transitioning into a better world. And yeah, we're at the big wrap up of some of the crazy. So you're going to have to prepare spiritually.
Yeah, I hug trees all the time. We go around. That's one thing I love doing is giving them a big hug and thanking them for what they do for us and the air. Kasnata. Can we do Kundalini awakenings? What's your thoughts on the Kundalini?
I think that's if you feel drawn to that and you feel confident in your energy to rise that up, it's a pretty powerful energy. But if you ground yourself and you're familiar with that, then yeah, why not? Like, who's to say you can or can't in how you connect, right? I don't think it's demonic if that's what they're asking. I mean, it could have been used as that, but if you're using it with, it's all about your intention.
Yeah, anything can be used to heal or to harm, anything. It
Absolutely.
doesn't matter A to Z, any
Yeah,
person, any color, any religion, anything can be used for good
yeah,
or bad. It's what your intention is behind it. And, God knows your heart. And so that's all that matters, what's in your
yeah,
heart and the energy that you bring forth into the universe.
yeah.
Project Bluebeam. Do you think this will occur? Will they fake an alien invasion? Will there be a real aliens come in contact in the near future? Like you were, mentioning a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, what's your
I
whole
think
thoughts on first real contact?
the fake one was definitely planned by the bad guys, but I feel like that got found out about and changed. And there may be a fake situation occur that starts the real exposure. But I believe at this point it'll be white hats. So you could, and they could just show you how they were going to fake a fake invasion. Okay. You know what I mean? They could, like, there's ways that they can do that, right? But I've been hearing from all over, people writing me all over. And I was just on with Mark Atwood, and he was telling me that he now calls in ships to reveal themselves. Okay. So people are learning to, and whoops.
You're
Uh-oh.
still here. I still see you. I still hear you.
Okay. Okay, I'm coming back there. Okay, sorry, somebody just tried to call.
All good.
I think, what was I saying there? Shoot.
The alien ships.
Oh yeah, if you feel in your heart open to seeing them and you feel ready spiritually to see them with an open heart and honestly, I feel like they could reveal themselves. So it takes spiritual work. And I feel like they are absolutely poised, and a lot more people are seeing them. So I think it's already happening, the reveal.
Alina is asking, can these people that are MK Ultra be saved? What works to wake them up?
What I've been hearing and seeing in the cards, like it seems to the cards nod that this is yes to this, is that they've been taken, some of them, and especially when they find people in the dumbs that have been down there and the amount of healing that it takes. Most of them don't make it, by the way, because they've literally been brought up like, well, they haven't been brought up. They've been treated like less than animals and eat as fed the remains of their fellow um, prisoners down there, and some of them have never even seen the light of day. They've all these experiments been done on them. There's all these crossbreeding and strange human slash other animals combined combinations, all these things they're making. People have even found above ground, so some escapees of these strange creatures, and that'll all get revealed too. It's just horrifying what they've been up to. Playing around with DNA and stuff. They've been doing that for years, and as if it's just sheep. They've been doing that with no, right? They've been cloning and doing weird stuff for a really long time. So I feel like that's hard to rehabilitate, and a lot of those have to be even eliminated, possibly. But they say that the ones that are MK Ultra, sometimes they can take them to So there are people that have worked through MK altering and have come forward, like on Lisa Eisenhower. Lisa.
Laura.
Laura Eisenhower show. She had this fellow who was Canadian, actually from Saskatchewan, I believe, him and his wife on there, and he'd been MK altered, and he'd actually been given as a gift for weeks at a time to the Queen and Prince Philip, and they did horrific things to him. And yeah, he had inside scoops on all the uh, politicians and just everything, all the cloning and stuff like that. He spilled so much, and it was, I read on it, it was absolutely, he was absolutely true about everything. He was MK altered, and he's been healing his whole, it'll take a lifetime or two. So I think there is things that they can do, and sometimes they even take them off planet, apparently, or we could say other dimensionally to do it, maybe with healing modalities from other dimensions, or greater knowings than ourselves. So maybe future understandings of medicine, and or maybe even med bed type things. I don't know for sure, but they've got ways, I think, that they can help back it up.
Yeah, we've had Laura on the Missing Link here as well, so
Mm-hmm.
she's great. And we've had a few questions about the med beds come up, this time, but all of a sudden we had Danny, what can you tell us about the med beds? What are your thoughts on the med beds? And are the med beds already being used all at the same time? Three people said it. So I guess now is a good time to talk about the med beds. And we had Christopher Key from the Vaccine Police. They've got in Florida now, they've got some med bed technology with the healing frequencies, and they're actually giving it to people for free. If anybody obviously can donate to help, he's been doing this, but anybody that needs a healing through these med beds can go into his facility. They just opened up their very first location, and it's for free if you can't afford to donate anything for the services. So just absolute beautiful people, doing real God's work here.
Yeah. So around med beds, there's med beds coming out, but there's also a whole bunch of fakes. So there's going to be fake and or just people looking for money. So you're going to need to maybe use your discernment, intuition, and also talk to people who've, like I always say, when you choose a reader, you don't just look in the back in the day, the phone book, or you know what I mean? You need to hear about someone had a good experience with that person and felt their energy and says they're good, and you trust that person. That's how you find out about a good reader. It'll be word of mouth. So I think the same will go for the med beds.
Cass Nada is asking, Janine, will you commence on private readings?
No, I don't think so. After all those years of doing it, I kind of like I retired from that. Like, and I'm a funny duck because for years and years I made my living sewing and doing, like, because I was in art college. I didn't finish art college because I wouldn't get this. I flunked 3 years in a row the one part of the art college that I needed to graduate, and that was history of art, because I just didn't buy it. I was like, I just can't get my head around this. None of that sounded real. And I couldn't just reiterate dates. And yeah, so I got the concept of the periods of supposed in art, but I wasn't buying history, and I don't buy any of history. I don't read books much because I think somebody wrote them, and for what agenda? I don't buy it. I don't buy nothing about the Bible. Like, what agenda? Who wrote that? Who rewrote that? How many demonics have got their hands on every written material? Give me a break. No thanks. No, I always go intuitively. Okay, I think I went off topic again.
No, it's all good.
That's what
So I've
psychics do, by the way.
I've never been religiously indoctrinated. I was baptized a Catholic, but my parents
Yeah.
never went to church. Once in a while on like an Easter or a Christmas or something. And then in school, I didn't, pay attention so much. All I did was cram real before the test, but I goofed off. I didn't, pay attention. And so I wasn't really programmed by, like, and you mentioned before, a lot of the people in the truth weren't probably the best students.
True.
And so I was able to, kind of steer clear of that. And I think that's why I have such an open and free mind to, what is going on, and, not be, too set in stone that one thing, this is the word and this is the way. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you're anybody that researches anything, how it's been redone and revamped and changed. And, every one of these different entities wanted to put their own stamp on it, like the King James. And so
Yeah.
you've got lots of changes to
Yeah.
bring fear, and
Yeah.
anything that promotes God as a homicidal psychopathic maniac is total
Yeah.
bullshit. And
Absolutely.
anything that portrays God
Yeah.
as anything but love
Yeah.
is, false indoctrination.
100% agree. Yeah.
So that's, hence why I'm able to, kind of, be where I am with my thoughts. So can you tell us about your new website?
Yeah. So once I got taken off YouTube, thank goodness I can still go on shows. Now they just do things like they call me nicknames. Like Arcana Shores like to call me the Queen of Ravens, which is very sweet. Queen of Ravens. I love it. And then some people just call me Janine Morajo, which is my name. And Yeah, but you can't say Tarot by Janine. So I couldn't go on certain shows. And if you promoted me, I couldn't go. Like, I couldn't even promote my website on YouTube. So that's why I chose not to reboot YouTube, because I couldn't even use Tarot by Janine anymore. Okay. And then I would be starting from scratch. Okay. So I built up YouTube and I was happy to, for years, I didn't make a dime, like, if you are a YouTuber, you know how it is. But by year 2.5, we started making money. And then I gave up entirely my clientele to go full time, because I knew I could subsidize, because, I got, bills to pay like everybody, but I could make the money at YouTube. Now, it took about another 6 months to start making enough to actually pay the bills. And then it started getting really good. And of course, when it got really good, that's when they shut us down on all platforms. So anything I was making money on got shut down. Okay. And that also shut down my Patreon, even though I still make a little bit on Patreon, but nobody can see the videos on Patreon because they're all connected to YouTube. So that's unfortunate. So if they're on Patreon and they're still paying monthly, it's because they're just supporting my work, but they're not getting the benefits of the Patreon videos that were up there. All my teaching videos were up there for, whatever you wanted to pay a month or whatever. But anyway, so I decided, okay, and there's several YouTube channels that pirated my work, so I wasn't going to compete with them. They were making money off my work. YouTube lets them do that no matter how much I complained. So I thought, never going on YouTube again. I'm done with YouTube. And also BitChute, I have intuitive feelings that it is just trying to round up truthers. I don't trust it. Okay, I also hate the way it looks, and it's the navigate. Like, I don't like how it looks. And Rumble, there's several, and even on BitChute, I think there is several video channels with my old videos on them, and they're calling themselves Tarot by Janine, and they're very believable. Like, if you look at it, it has the same banner from the YouTube channel. It's really offensive, and I'm not going to fight with those guys and try to recreate the income. So I went to a web Jean-Claude and Julie, so they're people I work with on Beyond Mystic. They created me, and they're really good at it, a great website where I can literally we have a community chat. I can put up videos there. So it's quite a comprehensive website. So they took my original Tarot by Janine website and totally intensified it. So it's quite expensive to run. And I decided $4.99 American is fair. I still make good money, but people can afford me. And that's just my opinion. A lot of people are really mad at me about it, and I'm sorry about that. You can find me on all those old videos for free with the pirators if you want to indulge in those kind of things. I don't agree with those kind of things. I don't watch pirated videos, but if you wanted to, and you can also see me on shows. I'm on lots of different shows. So Tom Numbers has me on, so you could still watch me on YouTube there. But if you want to see my regular stuff now, you got to come on my website, and I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, there's people. Yeah, awesome. There's people out there that, they they clone the missing link interviews and then they broadcast them on their own. And it's
Yeah,
flattering in a sense, but they don't even put a link to any of my channels. They don't put any
yeah,
to any of our channels. They
yeah,
don't link it. They just copy it and broadcast it as their own broadcast. And
yeah,
like I said, it's flattering that they do that, that they think, that it's worth even, redistributing in their own way. But you would think that they would just try to help promote us
yeah,
to be able to
yeah,
get more and more people. But we find the shadow banning as
yeah,
much as anybody. And like I
yeah,
said, three YouTube channels deleted
yeah,
already now.
yeah. Karma's going to get those people that are making money off pirated videos. Trust me, I'm a huge believer in karma. So karma will smack down in anything you're doing, and if you're purely doing it, uh, you know, to be a thief or whatever, and you just want to make money from somebody else and not give them a nod, I'm not going to worry about it because they're going to get a smackdown.
So do you want to tell us about your Beyond Mystic Academy?
Yeah, so Beyond Mystic Academy has all kinds of amazing courses a person could take, and they're all of the mystical kind of variety, right? So you'd have to go on Beyond Mystic and have a look. Beyond Mystic Academy, that's a separate website, and you can find my tarot and soon to be number two's coming up. So a lot of people already purchased the number one, but you could still purchase the number one. That would be the major arcana, where I go through each one. So there's several videos to get through, and you can do it on your own time. So all of these videos, there's even the French version of the major arcana that Julie put forward, which is wonderful because at least we get it in another language, right? So if people don't speak English, and French can be something they can work with, you got it. The major arcana is also being taught in French. Also, there's all kinds of mystical arts being taught on there. You can go have a look at it. I can't even remember, but there's so many, and we're just going to grow it. So I'm part of it, but it's Jean-Claude and Julie are actually they put it together, the website together, but they've included me, and I feel really like a big part of it. So yeah.
Mariejo says, do you have a Patreon, Jesse and Janine? I'm small change. However, I do believe in tithing. I don't, but Janine mentioned she does have. Your Patreon still going?
Yeah, it's Janine Morigeau. So Morigeau. That's my last name. So Janine, Janine. That's how you find me. It's not under Tarot by Janine. It's Janine Morigeau. And it's probably a good thing it's not under Tarot by Janine, because Patreon is largely connected to YouTube. And for some reason, just saying Tarot by Janine really, I would have got my Patreon taken down too, probably.
Angeline is asking, are you familiar or connected with Carmel Joy Baird at all?
No.
Okay, so what's next for you? Anything coming up? Have you, been able to travel at all with this craziness that's been going
Yeah,
on? It's
not yet. Haven't traveled anywhere other than road tripping. And I often put pictures as I road trip. In particular, I like to go to Vancouver and the Haida Gwaii, and I do love a good road trip, but I'm getting a little antsy because there's all of these great truther rallies and things going on in the US that I'd love to get to. So we're gonna have to get that to happen one way or the other. But obviously, I'm not jabbed in any way, so that'll have to be creative, or we'll have to see what the new rules are. Just have a look at how to get around them. Apparently, just really standing your ground and taking airlines, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, people, but apparently you can get out easy, but it's the getting back in thing that's a little tricky. But I do not consent, so I just keep saying that. None of this was done legally, and I just keep repeating that really politely, and hopefully that'll work for me.
So apparently we've, seen people, and we've had Dr. Daryl Wolf here on a bunch of times. He actually came in. He's been living in Mexico now. He did a
Mhm.
Facebook Live while he came into the airport in Calgary. He was live the whole entire time. He
Mm.
told them no. He told them no arrive can. He told them he's not giving them an address or a phone number. He doesn't have to. They went and talked to the health officials or whatever, and he's like, no, I don't. You know, am I being detained? Is what you have to say. And we even heard a border guard come out and talk about what you can say. Well, am I being detained? No. Well, then see ya, and you can just leave. So, you
Yeah.
know, I know that arriving, coming back is not the big issue. I know right now getting into the US, if you're not a US citizen, is still an issue if you don't have the papers. But we've also seen people go through borders, for the road borders, doing videos, actually getting in twice, going in back and forth into the US. I know Novak Djokovic, which is a big tennis player, he's not vaxxed and he can't go to the US Open right now. They didn't give him an actual an exemption. So, you know, it's still there, but people are sliding through in and out. And I believe, as well as what your intentions are, you know, if you're good hearted, as you can probably roll through, you know, and like, you know, Janine said, stand your ground while you're doing it. Mylene is asking, why are the prices going up if the white hats are in control?
Again, they got to let the thing play itself out. They got to keep showing you what all of these fraudulent governments had planned. They were going to shut off your food, make it impossible, basically. Remember, the New World Order plan, that 30-year plan, was Klaus Schwab's plan, was everyone will own nothing. This is where we were headed, and be happy about it. We'd all be living in cities, so they were going to get us all, like, they lie to us and tell us there's too many humans. Well, guess what? There's way more land mass than they admit to. First of all, there is no global warming. That's a huge hoax, just to make us feel bad about ourselves, by the way. Of course, we can do things better, but there's no global warming. It's the deep state that's been messing everything up, not us. Okay. And the way they've been creating things, that they're the ones doing any monkeying around. And HARP's been messing with our weather to try to get us to believe in global warming. That's all a BS. Okay. But they have to show these things to show you what these guys have been up to. So that's one of the things that they're doing. So they can't just let it all be nice and you think that, well, nothing needs to change. You have to see what these guys are going to do to you if we let them stay in charge. That way you'll be okay with when they come out with, there's been secret tribunals and we've offed people. Okay, how are you going to like that if everything seems okay? You're going to be okay with them offing people when they don't have a really good reason to? No, you're going to need to hear these guys were trying to off you and your kids, and they were making adrenochrome, and like, secret tribunals are not okay unless you're dealing with something that demonic. So they have to show the demonic side.
The last question I have is about the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. I don't know if it's separate, but what's the fate of the United Nations and the Economic Forum, and maybe see if the cards has something to tell us about, you know, I don't know if it's two separate entities or they're the same evil bird, but just wondering their fate.
That's the World Economic Forum. So it looks like they're in free fall. They're definitely dark cult and created by the dark cult. So there's no two ways about it with that Hierophant badly aspected. Hierophant's a great card, but not if it's badly aspected. And this card, so they're in a lot of grief and stress, World Economic Forum, and I'm not feeling sorry for them, and strategizing, trying to survive. And a 9 is 1 away from a 10. So they're almost done. And what was that other one?
United Nations.
Yeah, I've looked at that several times, and I believe that United Nations was taken over by white hats. But they're still playing out some, showing you what bad actors they are. Okay, that's what's going on with them. But let's just double check, make sure that's still the case. Every time I check, like, there was all those rumors going, oh, the United Nations are like sitting at all the borders. They're ready to take everybody down. Has any of that happened, you guys? No, that didn't happen. All of that's fear porn to show you what the plan was for the bad guys. Seriously, start looking around at what isn't happening and you'll figure it all out. What isn't happening? I'm not in a camp. They were talking about they're going to put us in camps a long time ago. We're not in camps. Okay, and I'm touching wood. We'll never be in camps. You know what I mean? The good guys are more in control, but we're going to have to be patient and keep watching, right?
Hmm.
And do our work. Personally work on vibrationally staying high, being loving and kind, helping people that, we can help. Obviously, not to be martyrs, but people that we can help and are reaching out for help right now. We might want to, if there's any way we can help them, try to be generous right now. Okay, try to spread the word as much as possible, even if it's just sharing videos that you like. You don't have to become a YouTuber if that's not your thing, but share the videos if you think they're valid, and just hold the line and don't personally fall into despair, because that energy is exactly what the deep state dark cult likes. Okay, don't become food for those guys. Be high vibrational, loving, and try to see what's happening to the good and stay in that vision and visualize your future instead of being in despair and woe is me and victimized, because that is not going to help. Okay, that's not going to help. So those other guys are already done, it looks like. So they've been taken down, taken over, but they're not ready to show you that just yet. They're still being careful to show that, probably because this is a war we're in, a world war, a spiritual war, and there's a lot of moves that have to be made, and so we can't know everything right off the bat.
Any thoughts on Elon Musk and the Starlink? And Hardy was saying some people believe that he was turned into a good, but he still got his insane transhumanistic agenda. So it's hard to know where about his head or heart is.
So I get he's been in the cult since he was a child. So his parents are dark culters, and if you just look at his mom, like but he did come over. So secretly he came over, and he's been flip flopping between good and bad, but they still find him useful. So they utilize his brand when they can. And I have a feeling they're going to deal with him once everything gets sorted out. They still have use for him. So until they're done using them in the battle here, they'll probably decide what to do with them after that.
Any tips on how someone can get more connected with the spiritual world other than loving, kinding, grounding, etc.? Is there specific ways to connect, or a way you can have them show themselves?
Believing in your heart they will, and verbally saying. So I'm a big believer in intention and verbally speaking out your intentions. So if you want to connect more, already talk about it as if it's already happening. So something like, every day I get more connected. So when you're feeling the most despair and disconnected, start with this mantra and just say it over and over. And then pretty soon it'll become automatic. Whenever you get into a feeling like you're not connected, start telling yourself. So fake it till you make it. Every day I get more connected to source. Every day I see signs. Every day source very obviously connects to me and makes itself known to me. If you say that, pretty soon you're going to bump right into exactly that.
That's amazing. Is there anything that you wanted to share that maybe we didn't cover?
I think we covered a whole lot. I'm good. I'm really happy that you're doing this, by the way. And I'll tell you, I'm going to be watching your work, because to be honest, I haven't been keeping up with what you're doing. But I'm thinking, wow, I had no idea even what we'd be doing today. I just agreed because my intuition said, yeah, you got to be on with him. And that's how I roll. So I really didn't investigate you or anything, because I just felt intuitively I should come on here. And I feel like you're really going to be a big part of this, and you've probably awoken a lot of people.
I have angel bumps all over my body as you're just saying that right now. So thank you. I appreciate that. This is interview 288 that we've done in a year and a half. We've interviewed over 30 doctors that are against the agenda. We've interviewed David Icke and Del Bigtree and just lots of people that are, kind of well known in the world. And
Yep.
we interview people that aren't as well known. But what we're doing here is we're recording history of everyone who's speaking out during these pivotal times. So in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, what happened during 2020? Well, we've got a whole database of, over 200, who knows, by 500 people, where people can actually look at what was going on and what people were saying and how people were speaking out. And so that's, I believe this is really important work that we're doing here with the Missing Link above, waking people up and, educating anyone that's willing to listen.
Wow. You're recording history as we make it. I
As
love
we
it.
make it. There's one question that I didn't get to. Pole shift. What's your thoughts on the pole shift?
I get yes, we're in the middle of it. It's already happening. So I think it's more spiritual, energetic, and less physically, literally, you're going to feel it. Although I've been feeling a big shift for a year now. I think we're literally, it's a time, it doesn't just happen overnight or in a minute or whatever. I think it happens over time, and we're polar. We're going to be a whole different vibration when we're come out the other side of this, and we're sort of right in the middle of it right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for all you're doing. Thanks for all the people that you're connecting with and helping, and, dealing with some of this censorship craziness that we're all having to deal with, and just figuring out our best niche and how we can connect to as many people as possible. I'm on BitChute as well. We pay the $5 per month, but we haven't got a lot of traction behind BitChute, but all of our interviews are there. But for one thing that you said about their platform is, when I first created the account, I didn't put anything in the picture, in the little box in the little profile, and I can't upload. I can't put anything in there. I can't put a picture. It's just a blank on the Missing Link. And I think that's very strange of BitChute to not actually allow me to now put a picture in there when I didn't do that first when, the account was created. So I thought that was a little bit strange.
Maybe there's a good reason, is what I'm getting. So higher vibrational energy was looking out for you. So I got a feeling BitChute's deep state.
That's probably, and I guess maybe, what does my future, is there anything in the cards that you could maybe share what my future is looking?
5. So something you've been hoping would have happened already and is taking a really long time, which could be just the whole world situation, but this could be really personal to you too. I feel like don't give up, because it's been taking a little longer than you expected. This could be financial, or it could even be a physical thing, maybe even a connection. I feel like that's coming. But the timing on it is different than you thought it was. And don't stay in a disappointed state around that. It'll work out exactly when it's universal timing, and it's going to be exactly how it's supposed to be. And I feel like by this time next year, you could really have a very different platform, and be sort of part of what we now call more mainstream, what will become the real news. You're gonna have something like that, and you could have moved by then. Also, I feel like a place you're thinking of moving, and you're safely just considering it, you could literally be moving by this time next year somewhere.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And Venus is asking if you can maybe do a collective card for all of us. And all that sounds really good of what you just said. And what, for me, that was, actually very much in alignment.
Cool. So there's a big change coming. I know everybody's been hearing that for a long time. That could be really surprising. So expect the unexpected, big surprises coming, and things could be resolved very quickly here, but in a very creative way that may not be exactly how you visualize it. I feel like the end of this movie is not anything anyone expects. So I've been getting that for a while. So expect the unexpected, and expect to be surprised. So try not to have too literal of an interpretation, and kind of have a loose just trust in things will get resolved for the human race. We are worthy and we will not be forsaken by universal love. So no matter how scary it gets, you're going to come out the other side more evolved, having learned our lesson and moving on to a way better way of being here on the earth plane. We can never go back to the demonic rule because we know too much.
Yeah, they've, ruled by secrecy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all been exposed. And, more and more every day, more and more people speaking out, more and more whistleblowers, more and more people flipping. And then the big thing is this, demon juice, I call this, this vaccine, is that, more and more people know people that are getting injured and
Yeah.
killed. And this is happening more and more. And it's kind of at the point where you either are happy that people are dying or you're angry that they've done this to us. And I think more
Mm-hmm.
and more people are getting angry and want to stop this insane darkness, this dark place that we've all been going through. Well, thank you again. We have, upcoming this week. We got Elena Dannon next today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So she was first impregnated by a gray, I guess, when she was 11 or 9 years old. And then she's going to talk a lot about galactic stuff. So we had her on once before. There was some people believed that she went dark or something. I heard some rumblings. So I said, why don't we just bring her back and ask her, see where she's at,